I'm going to take just a few minutes here to kind of introduce this video that's coming up. Kind of give you a little bit of explanation of it. I got to go back 50 years ago more. I got into the muzzleloaders. I got into muzzleloaders, and also as part of that, I got into the buckskinning aspect of it. You know, the period clothing and utensils and what have you. You know, even to the tents and the way you camped and what you cooked with and everything else. So, we had a good friend of mine, Gary, that recently died. We got into that buckskin real heavy. And it was wonderful. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So for about 10 years, we were heavy into buckskin. Everything had to be done sort of like the way it was, you know, way back when. Well, that was before they ever had muzzleloader seasons. And then when my state, along with a lot of other states, started initiating muzzleloader seasons, those first few were wonderful. They were great. But then they started mandating blaze orange. And don't get me started on that. When we can give up a freedom, even if to a government that can tell us what color clothes we can wear. As Thomas Jefferson said, anybody that's willing to give up the freedom in exchange for a little bit of security or safety is destined to have neither. But we don't want to get into that too much. But anyway, blaze orange and buckskins just didn't go together. So I kind of hung most of my real traditional stuff, you know, all these buckskin and paraphernalia and all that stuff. I hung it on the wall 40 years ago, and it pretty much hung there for all that time. But then this year, I dug out an old Tennessee poor boy here, and on it, I put a flintlock. Put my flintlock back on it, and putting that flintlock back on that thing is one of the best things I ever did. But anyway, for many years, I still muzzleloader hunted, of course, and loved muzzleloader seasons and all that, but I kind of just blended a little bit of, you know, modern stuff with traditional stuff, and didn't use the buckskins, used modern clothes and all that. And I used somewhat more of a more modern rifle. Any of you might recognize this. This is a Thompson Center, so-called Hawken, that I have heavily modified to make it look more and primarily feel more like a true Hawken. And I did this back even when I was in the buckskin. I totally changed the shape and configuration, got rid of a bunch of junk, and just made it a fine rifle, really. But I also got into using maxi balls. Not passed around ball, but maxi ball. So with this rifle, I hunted several years, took a tremendous amount of game with it, including elk and everything else. And it's still a great rifle, but for what it is, but it's not really traditional, you know, not really. It's sort of loose, and I mean loose copy. Even after I've done all the modifications to it, it's still somewhat of a loose copy of a Hawken or a Gimmer rifle. But anyway, I want to get back into the flintlock. So I dig out my Tennessee poor boy, put my flintlock back on, and I hunted the last 6 days of our muzzleloader season with my flintlock, and man, what a blast. I had forgotten just how much fun it was. To heck with whether it's you have to wear blaze orange or whatever, it don't really matter. The flintlock itself is just phenomenal. I just loved it. So I fell in love with the flintlock all over again. And I decided to try on some of this old buckskin clothes that I made 40 and 50 years ago. Believe it or not, most of it still fits. It's amazing. But anyway, I got into it heavy, back into it heavy, just probably as bad as I ever was. And I've got myself ordered a Kibler long rifle, wood shroner kit coming in. I'll be making that. I'll be building that. And it's a flintlock, of course. So I decided I'm going to go out and do a little bit of experimenting, a little bit of testing, a little bit of load testing, what have you. So I go out yesterday, and I want to experiment around with some different patching materials, some different materials to use over the powder, over the powder patch, and different lubes and different powder charges and what have you. I want to go out and do that, and I want to do something different. Again, to what I had been doing for quite a while. So for quite a while, when I was using those, that honking, I'd use, like a lot of people, I'd use these quick reload stuff, you know. Well, that's not buckskin. That's not the way our forefathers did it. So I've got to go back and do what I used to do, reload from the pouch, as they say. Well, I got to get used to that. And another thing that I wanted to try different, I wanted to prime the pan from the main powder horn, which I'd never done before. And that's quite awkward, actually, to get started. I've always used this little priming horn. So anyway, I'm going to do a few things different. Now, you would think that if you did something as much as I did 40 and 50 years ago, you know, reload from the pouch and everything, that would be just second nature. Well, it was back then. But laying off for 40 years, man, did I ever have 40 years worth of rust. Hey, oh, Mosey. And as that good-looking woman of mine likes to remind me of frequently, I ain't 30 anymore either. She said, when you're 80, you know, things might not come quite as easy as they did, and you might not remember things as easy as you did. She might have a point there. So I go out and I'm going to do a little shooting, a little reloading, a little load testing and all that sort of thing, and learn something different, you know, something as simple as loading from the priming from your main powder horn. Oh my goodness. And loading from the pouch again, and the whole 9 yards. It was a little awkward, to say the least. Matter of fact, it's downright funny at times. But here I am going to do a few little simple experiments, and I'd forget this step or that step or the other step, and have to repeat and go over again and again. But it turned into kind of a comedy, really. But so I want you to yeah, watch this video coming up, and you might get a laugh at me just like I laugh at myself, because it was quite funny. Me trying to get started back into the flintlocking and buckskinning aspect of things a little bit. And another thing that made it even more difficult, if you try to self-film something, that's a pain. That can be a real pain. You got to think of that. And now I've got to try to set the camera up and fool around with that, along with fooling with all this other stuff. And it was so bright out. I mean, bright sun out on snow, sunshine on it. I'm getting a bit of a snow blindness, you know. My God, I couldn't hardly see much of anything. I mean, it terribly, terribly bright. But I could not see that LCD screen. I couldn't see what was in the frame. I couldn't see what was in focus. I couldn't even tell whether the record button was on half the time or not. So that was frustrating as a Dickinson. And half the time it wasn't on. The record button wasn't on. I didn't get half the shots that I took yesterday. I didn't even get on video. I thought the thing was running. It wasn't. Anyway, it turned out to be a funny little episode. So when you watch this, laugh along with me, because most people probably wouldn't even put up on YouTube such shenanigans as I was going through there. But if you can't laugh at yourself, you can't laugh at anybody. You'll have a right to laugh at anybody if you can't laugh at yourself. So anyway, sit back and have a good laugh at my expense. Talk soon. Well, it's probably going to be the last day for a while that we're going to have any snow to speak of. It's rapidly melting off, and temperature's mild up considerable. It's up around 40 degrees today. Anyway, I've got a little bit of experimenting I want to do. I'm going to experiment with some different patching and lube combinations, as well as powder, grains of powder. And another thing I want to try, I'm going to prime straight from the horn with 3F powder rather than with 4F priming powder, which I've never done before. But when I'm putting my Flintlock back on my Tennessee poor boy, it just sparked an interest that I hadn't really had in quite a while. But anyway, I got back into the buckskinning outfit a little bit. And many years ago, me and my buddy that just passed away, we got heavy into the buckskinning aspect of everything. We really enjoyed that, and for many years we muzzleloader hunted in traditional, somewhat period correct garb. And I've had that hanging on the wall for 40 years. When I got back into this Flintlock, and I've ordered a Kibler Woods Runner kit that I'm going to put together, and that really kind of sparked me to get back into the buckskin and stuff a little bit, and do a little bit of buckskin along with building the new rifle build. So I'm going to try a couple of things, one of which is priming from the horn. Uses a priming powder my main charge with 3F. So I'm gonna, whoops. First thing I better do is watch what I'm doing, about tripped here. So I'm gonna, first off, I'm gonna see how this is gonna fire. That hit pretty much where I was aiming. Gracious. It's so bright out here. I'm having a hard time getting the camera focus on me, I think. That is wild. Anyhow, that worked. So I'm going to see if I can get another load here. another 60 grain load. And in this case, again, I'm going to lube it with boar butter. And again, prime it from the horn. Prime from the horn. The accuracy seems to be absolutely spot on. Now, I fired a couple of shots. The second one loaded okay. But I'm going to run a dry patch down this thing just to clean it a little bit. Especially those last few inches down at the powder charge. And as you can see, quite dirty. Now on my range rod here, I've got a flexible that I'd ordered that you can cut to whatever length you need. I ordered it a couple of years ago. And I've just got a brass brush on the end of it. And that works pretty good. Now, what I want to do now is I'm going to load that 120 grain load that I've been hunting with. It ain't gonna be quite 120 grain. I spilled a little bit of it there. With this, gonna pretty much be my 120 grain honey load that I've been using that thing forever. And the patch that I'm going to use now is going to be one of those patches that I had pre-lubed with moose milk that a lot of people swear by. My spirit so far has not been all that impressed with it. But in order to give it a fair try, I'm also going to load over it some experimental stuff here. And this is some denim, some heavier denim, much heavier than the cotton cleaning patch, shotgun cleaning patch that I've been using. So I'm going to put this heavier denim patch down first. Then that pre-lubed patch, pre-lubed with moose milk. Round ball. Short starter. And then ram it home. Nice place to look. All right. Find it up here. Okay. So here we go again. And one more time, I'm going to use a dry clean patch to swab the bore out with. And just a dry clean patch. It's dirty and hard. The filing's hard. I am not in the least bit impressed with that. So let's go, we'll load it up again, 120 grain honey load. All right, 120 grain that. And now I'm going to go back to my Celtic patch. It's going to be heavily greased with boar butter from my grease hole. That's got pretty good lube on it. That really feels rough. If that patch comes out intact, it'll be a miracle. That was rough. Again. Clack. That's the first clack I ever had. Well, they sure got it. But I did have a kerclack. Well, my main pillow ticking patch is in much better shape than it was before, but it still lacks something. And that's primarily because I think this was torn shoving it down the barrel. It was so incredibly rough going down with that crusty fouling. So I'm going to take a second and run a wet patch down and clean some of that fouling out and try this shot again. And once again, I'm going with 120 grain. Which has been my honey load in this rifle for a long time. Look. I didn't put an over the powder wad in that last one. Well, the patch come out real good because I didn't even have no powder wad in it, which I normally do. At least I don't think I did. I'll go back and look at the video and see. I don't think I did. Get some lube again from that grease hole. That grease hole's a handy dandy thing for lubing your patches. Where I fired that last test shot, there's too many obstacles out there that my patch could get held or hid in. And so naturally it did. So I got to redo that test. It'd be 120 grains with your patch lubed with boar butter or beeswax olive oil. I'm telling you, that 120 grains with either with the denim or with cotton patch or shotgun patch. That was soaked in moose milk and let dry. I'm not impressed with that at all. A lot of people are. I'm not. I am not a fan. So now I got to load up 120 grains again. Got it. That's 60. 60 more. Now, patch out here. Move it straight from the grease hole. It lubed up good. I've been told by some that I use too much lube, but when you, how can you say that when you fouling is soft, your patches come out not torn, intact, and the accuracy is good. What else can you ask for? I did not put an over powder wad in this. So let's see how this one comes out. It does not have a protective over the powder wad. I'm getting a chance to do all kinds of experimenting today because I keep forgetting to do something. I'm trying to do it for you. I am not accustomed to loading from the main powder hill. That's another thing I'm experimenting with. Well, I did not have an over the powder patch in there, and one side or one part of my main patch got a lot of blow by, and I wobbled off target when it went off, so I did not hit what I was aiming at. Out there about 50 yards, a little plate, I missed that. So I gotta do this again. I'm gonna get this one simple experiment finished one of these days. So again, I'm gonna run a wet patch down it. Soften up some of that. Okay. And one more time. See if I can remember to do everything that I intended to do. Let's go around. 120 grain. There's 60. Another 20. Over the powder patch. Get my patch greased here. We're gonna need ball. Patch looks pretty good. One little blow by in there, but basically, I mean, that's not much lube on there. But this patch is in so much better shape. And the only difference in the other one is the lube on here. The beeswax and olive oil or boar butter grease works much better than the ballast all moose milk, where you soak it in moose milk, let it dry out, and use it as a pretty dry patch. My gun just don't like that. My load's not like that at all. So I cleaned the barrel. Well, I didn't clean the barrel. I run a dry patch down it to get some of the fouling out of it. It's loaded with 60 grains and over the powder wad and over the powder patch. And I'm going to grease it up really good with boar butter. Get that thing greased up good. So I am a believer in lots of lube. And that over the powder patch keeps this, where I got quite a bit of lube on here. If I want to leave this thing loaded forever, that over the powder patch will keep any of this lube from soaking into your powder charge. I sort of running them down first. I'll go out here and find that last patch. And again, this one was loaded with no over the powder patch. 60 grains, just a couple of tiny little tears in it, and it was pounded down. And I do mean pounded down the barrel. It was tight. I didn't think it'd have any patch left at all. But this one is 60 grains.